What's going on, everybody? It's John here. Do videos on investing, on credit. You're going to see some videos also starting to get more content together on short and medium term furnished vacation rentals, or just furnished rentals in general. I got 3 places I do that here in Southern California, and we are right in the thick of the super busy season right now. And also, you're going to see some videos on adventure travel, and then really just also active living. Just kind of live here in Southern California, pretty much get an active lifestyle all year round. But basically, what do we have today? We've got an investing video. Today is actually a very exciting video. I think, at least, everybody would agree that solar and clean energy is something that is happening right now. I mean, it is really happening right now. Not only is there going to be a massive investment, here from 2020 to 2050 over the next 30 years. In terms of into solar and wind. What's interesting is that there's a lot changing with respect to the efficiencies of the technology, right? So I'm going to go through some numbers here with you in a second, but basically what's happening is like solar, literally has gotten 70% cheaper, to create the same energy from 70% cheaper in the last 5 years, right? And then wind's a little bit of a different story. But that's certainly pretty amazing. And I also have a lot of contextual experience with solar. I mean, one of my properties is an investment property, and I was able to actually put solar on that, and it is amazing the difference it makes. I was kind of fortunate enough to actually put in a system that I estimated would power about 65% of the property. Thank goodness it's actually overproducing now for the property, which has been certainly a luxury there. But I do have a lot of contextual experience with solar, and certainly having an impact my business and financial life. So what do we have here? I'm going to talk to you about some stats with respect to renewable energy, clean energy, solar and wind, what's going to happen with it, and then I'm going to go into the top 6, the 6 best ETFs for solar, wind, really just clean energy ETFs that I like, and I'm going to go ahead and show them to you on Yahoo Finance. Okay, so what do we have here? We have energy consumption. This is actually the energy consumption is going to go up 60% between 2020 and 2050. That's really, kind of an average stat, right? But what's really interesting is we're talking $30 trillion of investment that's going to actually occur between 2020 and 2050. And that's according to Bloomberg. This is not, just kind of reading something, off the internet yesterday. This is according to Bloomberg. 50% of that 30 trillion is going to go into capacity, and 50% of that 30 trillion is going to go into the grid. And when we take a look at that, we got 11 trillion, which is going to go into renewable. And as you can imagine, that renewable is going to come down to wind, and it's going to come down to solar. So basically, what do we have here? We have, by 2050, 56% of all electricity generated will be from wind and solar. In 2020, we have only 9%, right? So of that 9%, 3% is coming from solar, and 6% is coming from wind. So if you actually fast forward, pro forma it out, we're going to look at 2050, 30 years, over the next 30 years, 23% is going to come from solar, and then 33% is going to come from wind. That's a whole lot with wind. I didn't really realize. But again, this is all coming from Bloomberg. And another stat to keep in mind is basically 6 years ago, wind, right now it costs, it's 46% cheaper, to create, the solar windmills. I'm sorry, not solar, the windmills to generate electricity. It's 46% cheaper than it was 6 years ago, and it's actually 15% more efficient now. Here we go, or according to 2020. And then solar is 70% cheaper, to actually create that electricity than it was 5 years ago. So what do we have with all this renewable, this exciting opportunity? I mean, I think obviously 30 years is a long time, but if you take a look at, what's happening with electric vehicles, certainly a lot of electric vehicle stocks have had a lot of momentum, certainly since March of 2020. This is just my opinion. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm certainly not your financial advisor. But, my opinion is you take a look at what's happening right now, and I see solar and clean energy very similar to electric vehicles. Maybe electric vehicles are a little bit more like in the next 1 to 2 years, but what's happening with respect to clean energy and solar is certainly, very, very powerful in the next, from right now to 2 years. And it's happening, and the investments are happening now, and they're going to continue, right? So let's take a look at the top 6 clean energy ETFs on Yahoo Finance. So I'm not ranking these according to, what I like the most or whatever, or something like that. What it really is I'm ranking these according to number of holdings, right? So I'm going to start with the actual fund that has the that has the least number of holdings, and that fund with the least number of holdings is TAN. So TAN is the Invesco Solar ETF. Now, what's interesting about TAN is this is actually the clean energy ETF on the list that really is the only solar one, right? So if you take a look, basically, 3.13 billion, so pretty sizable. There are, again, this is the smallest number of holdings on the list, only 32. 32 holdings for Invesco. Let's go ahead and take a look at their performance. So what's interesting is pretty much, for some reason, all the clean energy ETFs are kind of having a pretty crappy year to date. At the time of this recording, it is June 21st, 2021, and they're all kind of, have a pretty crappy year to date, right? But pretty, very, very solid, 1 year return. So you take a look at the performance overview, a 140% 1 year daily total return. Then we take a look at, trailing returns versus the benchmark, trailing 1 year at 176, versus the benchmark, trailing 5 year 30%. So, so that is TAN. And then I'm not going to go into the, the holdings of each, but basically I'm, something that, again, this is, my opinion, but a great way to actually start, instead of just buying individual solar stocks, if you're not familiar with each of the companies, which, I talk a lot about stocks. I, have got a lot of very high conviction names, but it's a great, well, at least, in my view, it's a great strategy to get a very broad exposure when you invest in the actual ETFs for something like, like a category like this, like clean energy or solar. And then as time goes on, if you really like some of the stocks in there, you could start to, responsibly, expose yourself to the stocks that you like in there. But a great way to get that exposure is really through these growth ETFs. So the next one, so again, that's actually TAN, and then you can take a look at, some of their holdings. Solar Edge, Enphase is number 2 for them. Wow, that's a lot. They're both 10%. Pretty high. But again, you're looking at a company that only, or not a company, but you're looking at an ETF that, only has 32 holdings, at least at the time of this recording. Okay, so the next one we have is ICLN. So ICLN has got 33 holdings. So with ICLN, we got about $6 billion in net assets there for ICLN, which is iShares Global Clean Energy Fund. And we take a look at the performance. Here we are. We got a performance overview, 1 year daily tracker return of 87.82. We've got the 1 year trailing return versus the benchmark of 93, and then the 5 year 24, on average there. So that is, and then let's take a look at, you can see, some of their holdings. Top 10 holdings are about 50%, which is really high. Enphase there at number 3. Plug Power down there at, like, what is that, 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6. I'm actually in the Solar Edge down there at the bottom too. So the next one we have is QCLN. So QCLN, we've got 45 holdings for QCLN. We got net assets of about 2.68 billion. And then let's take a look. And again, let's tell you what it is. It's the First Trust Clean Edge Green Energy Index Fund, QCLN. So we got a performance overview of a whopping 124.46% 1 year daily tracker return. We've got the trailing percentage returns versus the benchmarks of 165.95. When you take the 5 year, 35.3. It's very interesting to see this clean energy. You look back 5 years and it's really not that strong. It's, a lot of them have had a very stellar returns going back to the beginning of 2020. So the next one we have is, should be QCLN. Nope, it's FAN. Sorry about that. Actually, it should be QCLN. I just did QCLN. Sorry about that. Okay, so the next one after QCLN is FAN, which is actually it's wind energy, right? So this is the First Trust Global Wind Energy ETF. So this is going to give you, the broad exposure, at least from an ETF perspective, to wind energy. And with FAN, we have 53 holdings with FAN. So FAN is pretty small. Looks like it might possibly be the smallest net assets in the group here at 400 million. So let's take a look at their performance with FAN. So FAN, we got a 1-year performance overview, 1-year daily total return, 52.66. We've got the 1-year trailing return versus the benchmark at 59.68, and then the 5-year at 15.72. So that is your kind of, what's nice about this is we got, kind of one ETF, which is just wind, and then one ETF, which is just solar. The next one we have is Invesco WilderHill Clean Energy, PBW. So we got PBW, and PBW's got 58 holdings. And then we got net assets of about 2 billion. So 1.94 billion net assets here, with PBW. And let's take a look at their performance. We have a whopping performance overview, 1-year daily total return of 134.51%. Then we've got the trailing percentage returns versus the benchmark at one year at 139.82, and then the 5-year at 35.78. And that is PBW at 58 holdings. And then, you go down, you can see top 10 holdings are 20.8 of total assets. So, you can, go down and see the individual holdings. That actually, fairly, obviously, as you go up in holdings, as an ETF goes up in holdings, typically you're going to see less of a percentage of the total ETF in the top 10 holdings. And that is, certainly what we're seeing with respect to PBW here. And then the last one is PBD. So here we have the Invesco Global Clean Energy ETF, and that is PBD. We got, actually, it looks like the second smallest net assets at 424 million. And let's take a look at their performance. So we have a 1-year daily total return of 96.39%. And then let's take a look at the 1-year trailing percentage returns versus the benchmark at 129, a whopping 129.03. And then the 5-year 24.83. And again, this is PBD, Invesco Global Clean Energy ETF. And then right here, you can see some of their top 10 holdings, about 10%, of the actual total ETF. And that seems very, clearly, here we are, I didn't tell you, PBD's got 106 holdings. So obviously, as you increase in the number of holdings, typically that exposure, percentage exposure relative to the total ETF, typically reduces with respect to that concentration of the top 10 here. So you can see kind of some of the top 10 here. Never fuel list. Yeah, so I'm not really incredibly familiar with all the top 10, but that is Invesco Global Clean Energy Fund, PBD. So there you go. So those are the top 6 through my research that I have found with respect to the solar, wind, and clean energy ETFs. And they're highlighting the opportunity. According to Bloomberg, we're looking at 30 trillion of investment that's going to go into solar, wind, and renewable energy and clean energy from 2020 to 2050. So huge, huge opportunity. About 56% of that is going to be, basically going to go between solar and wind with respect to the way it's going to work with renewables. And about $11 trillion of investment is going to go into renewables. So there you go. Of all these, everybody, I certainly like, a lot of them. I really do. I have the most contextual experience in my life with solar. So I'm probably going to take a position in TAN. And then also, I find it interesting, Vail Resorts, actually, my understanding is Vail Resorts powers a lot of their resorts off of wind power as well. So I've got a little bit of experience with understanding that. I probably won't take that position in FAN like I will in TAN, but certainly will take a position in QCLN and ICLN here as well. So hopefully you guys like that. If you found that useful, go ahead and give me a like. Subscribe to the channel. If you want me to do more videos, if you want to see a video on a different growth ETF, find the best growth ETFs for a particular sector, I'll do that as well. Let me know in the comments section. I'm happy to do that. Always need ideas for the channel. And then also I'm going to put some links below. I got a blueprint I came out with where I cover investing. I cover credit. Actually, in the back of it, I got several pages. All the groups in the U.S. that give you a free FICO score for each bureau. This is kind of obvious. Basically, 90% of all lenders still use FICO when making their credit decisions. So when you are going out there and you're getting credit, you're going to have to know what your FICO score is at all three bureaus. And I'm not talking about going and getting just your free Credit Karma or whatever. You actually have to make sure that it's the FICO scoring model, that is what you're getting. And a lot of places out there will charge you a certain amount of money per month to do that. And I've got a blueprint here, like I said, at the end of it, I've got all the groups that will give you a free FICO score and the corresponding bureau with that, right? And I also cover, like I said, investing. I cover credit. Also cover some generating income online in that document. It's only $7, everybody. I'm going to put the links in there below. And thank you very much. Have a great week.